Good, everybody. Good evening. First, I'd like to ask is, where's everybody from? Use the chat box. Where are you from? Let's see where everyone's hailing in from. I know Wendy's from Atlanta, by way of Liverpool. I can't see the chat box, I don't think. Yeah, here we go. Oh, wow. Motor City, Denver, Springfield, Illinois, Niagara, Canada, 2 from Niagara, Alexandria, Virginia, El Paso, Texas, San Francisco, Vancouver, and I tell you, Wendy, you attract a crowd. You attract quite the crowd. All right, everybody, let's get started. So officially, I want to welcome everybody to Vision Expo's Happy Hour, brought to you by the EYE2EYE series. Now, before we get into our series, just a few housekeeping rules. As you can see, we decided to use Zoom software. The reason why we decided to use Zoom, because this is not a webinar, this is a conversation. And we wanted to be able to have a sense of community. We saw that Zoom would be really nice because Zoom gives us the opportunity to see each other, to interact with one another. And we really feel like it's more of a sense of community and a really good vibe with Zoom. But in order for us to have this, only one person can speak at a time. So what that means is you want to make sure that your mic is always on mute when Wendy and our mentees are speaking as well. If you would like to ask any questions though, you can use the chat box to type your questions in. If you would like to ask a live question, you can either do one of two things. Number one, use the raise your hand button, just hit that button and I'll see you, raise your hand. Or number two, you can just chat me personally and let me know you want to ask a live question. So now just in case we do get disconnected, what I'll do is just wait 5 minutes and then you log back in. If after 5 minutes we're not up and running, that means that we will postpone the session to another time. So, but we thank you all again and welcome to Happy Hour. So hope you guys all brought your adult beverages of choice. I know some people brought water. I'm not saying who they are, but you'll see who they are later. But nothing wrong with that either, adult or non-adult beverages of choice. So I have for us today, this is a very unique session. This is going to be the next generation of retail happy hour. And I have no other than the legendary Wendy Sally from Sally Opticians. How's it going, Wendy?
I'm great, thank you.
Good, good. Now, Wendy, we're going to get a little bit in touch with you. Just tell us a little bit of who you are, how long you've been in business, a little bit about your business model.
So I started in 1987. And back then there really weren't a lot of independent lines. That didn't really start happening until the late 80s when you started getting, you know, Oliver Peoples, Matsuda on the scene. But very early in the 90s, I decided that really the only way to survive being a smaller independent retailer was to try and do things that other people are not doing. And so that meant for me embracing luxury product as that started to evolve, and really choosing lines that were not mass marketed. And 34 years later, we're still doing the exact same thing, and I still love it.
Wow, 34 years, really, really impressive. Now, Wendy, we're going to learn a lot more about you on these different dates you have set up. But Wendy and I have a surprise for everybody. Since this is happy hour, we actually have a celebrity guest bartender in. So if you can do me a favor and unmute yourself, celebrity guest bartender. And that would be none other than my boy, friend of the industry, the creator himself, Todd Rogers. How's it going, Todd?
It's going well. How are you doing?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. So Todd, I know everyone knows you, but can you give just a little bit of background on who you are?
So I'm an optician of 28 years. Have a practice we're going on our 22nd year up in north of Boston, and I have a frame line called Todd Rogers Eyewear I think we're going on our 12th year now, and pretty simple.
Nice. So Todd is actually going to be also having a speed dating session in 2 weeks. So this gives you a little bit of a glimpse on a little bit of Todd, but he's here actually to make a drink for us for our happy hour. So what are you making for us today, Todd?
So let's see, I like my scotch and I'm half Scottish, so I figured here at Todd Rogers, we like to, we're going to do our little thing that I like to call, like our frame line. We always say Todd Rogers is classic with a twist. Well, I'm going to do a classic drink. It's called a Rob Roy. So it's basically a Manhattan, but a Scottish style. So we use Scotch whiskey. So basically I had 2 shots of Scotch whiskey. Okay, I'm using a Glenlivet, a single malt. I prefer that than a blend. Has a little more smokiness to it. And classically, you put sweet vermouth in it. and then a little bitters in it. I'm not a vermouth fan, and here's the twist. I take Luxardo cherry juice, okay? And I drain some of the juice in here, okay? I'll mix up my scotch that I poured out earlier. Some ice there, and I'll put 1 dash of bitter. That's it. I don't like it too bitter. And then I like to shake it.
All right.
Now get your fancy glass, okay? And this is a good intro for a drink like this or into scotch because the sweetness kind of kills some of that smokiness that I like, but not all people prefer in whiskey or scotch. There you go. It's kind of tough to do when your hands are shaking a little bit.
You're doing great. I love that bar, by the way. That's
thank you. Yeah, we just built this house, and my wife and I lead designed the whole place. And then I take 2 Luxardo cherries, put it in there. And if you've never had a Luxardo cherry, you're missing out.
All right.
And there we have it. So we call this the Todd Rogers Rob Roy.
I love that. I love that. Here's to you, Todd. Thank you. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
We'll see you in 2 weeks for your speed dating session. So,
absolutely.
All right, Wendy. Are you all set, Wendy?
I think so.
All right. So, Wendy, let's bring in your first mentee. Dr. Jennifer Sze, are you there?
All right.
Hi, Jennifer.
I'm here.
Good. So, Jennifer, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, thanks for having me as a part of this. This is really awesome. I am Jennifer. I'm practicing in New York City. I have a cold start that's currently in construction during COVID, and hopefully we'll be able to open our doors early week of June. I also have a e-commerce line for eyewear. It's called Carrot Eyewear, and I do social media influencing at Dr. Jen.
Awesome. So how it's going to work, Dr. Jen, for all the mentees, you will have 8 minutes to ask Wendy anything you want, and she will answer anything you ask her, she told me. So yeah, the time starts now. When you're 8 minutes over, I will interrupt you and let you know it's time. So the floor is all yours, Dr. Jen.
Okay, Wendy, can I get your social security number, date of birth? I'm just kidding. Okay, my first question is, what are your plans to grow your business going forward post-COVID? Will it change, and how so?
Yes, I think a little bit. I think everybody's going to be forced to change some. I think it's pushed us to think about things maybe a little bit quicker than we would have. One thing that I've been working on for about 8 months is trying to find a virtual try-on, essentially. And I found the ideal program, but it's taken me this long, and I've tested several others that just haven't worked out. But I think really we're just going to keep moving forward with the things that we were already doing. We're doing a lot more customization. This virtual try-on company that I found also does bespoke eyewear. And so it gives us control to be able to manufacture a absolutely perfectly fit frame. It's quite interesting. I did a beta test for them in the US, and now they're morphing their program, if you will, so that we can use it with stock frames as well. And it's really exciting.
Okay. Which leads me to the second question, and it's related to e-commerce sales. It sounds like you are implementing it onto your site for your optical. In what capacity do you plan on selling frames on your site? Is it the full package from the frame to the lens to delivering to the home? Or are you planning to just possibly just sell frames? And if you are able to share what the virtual program is, could you tell us?
I did get permission from them to tell you. In fact, one of the owners is, I believe, on today. So the drive for me is not necessarily having an e-commerce, okay? One thing I've learned through this COVID shutdown is that our skills cannot be replaced. When we closed down and I had 150 jobs ready to pick up, I was calling patients and saying, would you like me to ship them? And they're like, no, we just want to wait because we want to come in and we want you to adjust them properly. And so I realized there's a lot of value in what we do. But I also think we need to give opportunity to people that maybe can't come in, or going forward now with COVID are a little nervous about coming in. So the virtual try on for me is more so that I can, it's not just a try on, it's a virtual consultation. So I can actually see the frames on people's faces. I can consult with them. I can tell them, you know, for your prescription, that's a little bit too large. Let's look at this, that kind of thing. And it also will take fantastic measurements for me that are super accurate. And those measurements have played out in the store. They have been accurate. I've done backups on my end and it works really well. So the name of the company is called Topology.
Topology.
And Topology started out, as I said, with a custom-made frame. I have probably sold about 20 in the beta test. Beautifully done. And now, you know, they're going to let us use this technology on our website, which will give us another facet to what we do. But for me, it's tying in what I do in the store, not necessarily trying to replace it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's for the patients who may need some sort of a virtual resource too.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the other side of it too is, wouldn't it be nice if they could see every frame that you had and narrow it down before they came in, right? I've picked my top 5 and now we've only got 20 minutes with them instead of an hour and 20, or, you know, do you know what I mean? There's a lot, it's a multifaceted thing. And I think we need to approach our sales techniques a little differently going forward, because we don't know how long this is going to last and how many people we're allowing in our stores and how quickly our customer base is going to come back.
Thank you. My last question is, just generally, what are 3 mistakes you wish you could have avoided that resonates in your head?
Only 3?
There were. Come on.
Well, my last one was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And after my youngest went to college, I was bored. I should have just bought a dog, but I opened a store. And it was a concept where it was all one price. So, you know, somewhat designer frames, but with all the fixed pricing. The lenses came with it. And of course, Warby Parker then expanded their brick and mortar and opened not just 1 store, but 2 within about 5 miles from me. So that was one mistake. Let's see. I think another one, which was probably about 15 to 20 years ago for me, was thinking that the mark of success was opening multi-locations. And I opened multiple locations. I think we had 3 or 4 going at one time. I was pulled from pillar to post. I had 2 children, and I didn't make that much more money for all the aggravation, let's put it that way. And so my challenge was to say to myself, can I do all of that in one location? And yes, I can. And so that was a mistake, if you want to call it a mistake. But you've got to try things, right? You don't know until you do the mistake, and then you learn from it. So never be afraid to push yourself. And I think the other one is probably more of a personality flaw for me, and that is that over the years I've had staff that I probably should have let go quicker. Maybe they were a little bit toxic for the practice or were underperforming, but I'm always wanting to make it work or making them want to do better. And sometimes you just have to say no, you know, it's just not working.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome, Dr. Jen, thank you. And Dr. Jen, I know this is a really hard time for you, opening up your first practice during this pandemic, but I know you very well. I know if anyone can do this, come out incredibly successable, it's going to be you. So good luck on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, definitely.
To celebrate Vision Expo 2021.
Yes, that's right, that's right. Because Dr. Jen's practice is going to be literally a few blocks from the Javits Center. So we'll all go to her practice in 2021 to do a real celebration. So Wendy, I got a Wendy Sally love letter. Actually, it says this. Check this out. There's a few comments about Wendy. She is smart and a good businesswoman. With the smartness, she is also kind, generous to all opticians, and she is my guru. Mind you, I have been in the business of high-end eyewear since 1993 and do carry wonderful collections. And even with that, she still teaches me new things. Can you guess who that is?
Oh my gosh, that's so nice.
Do you know who that is? I'll give you a hint. There are neighbors to the north.
No, not a
That
clue.
that came from your good friend Zaf.
Well, that's very sweet, and I do appreciate that. That's
Excellent.
lovely.
And Zaf is on here today supporting this
Hi,
session.
Zaf.
Shout out to you, Zaf. All right, let's go on to our next mentee. Mwaka from Atlanta. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you all?
I'm doing well. Now, both of you from Atlanta, how far are you and Wendy from each other?
So Wendy's on the north end. I'm on the south end, so about 25 minutes.
Okay, excellent. So you guys could meet up for a regular happy hour one of these days.
Yeah, right? If you can get through Atlanta traffic.
Yeah, excellent.
When it gets back to normal, not the COVID traffic, the real traffic.
Right. All right, Mwaka, so you have the floor for the next 8 minutes, and you have some really good questions, so it's all yours.
Okay. Thank you guys. First of all, I want to thank you guys for doing this, Wendy for participating, and of course, Terrence for putting this together. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm an optometrist and I do practice here in Atlanta. Like Terrence said, I'm on the South Side. I've been in practice since 2012. And I'm just excited to be a part of this. I do have an interest in independent eyewear and starting potentially a line and a boutique. So just a great opportunity to be here and a part of this. So I'll jump into the questions. You often hear many successful people talk about how opportunity needs preparedness. Just for inspiration's sake, Wendy, do you have a story about a chance or an opportunity you got that kind of propelled your business forward?
I don't know that I could pinpoint it to one specific thing. I would say that as you go on this journey of owning your own business, you watch what's happening in your market. And about 4 or 5 years ago in Atlanta, the landscape started to change. There were a lot of buyouts. So a lot of smaller independent OD practices were gobbled up, and the My Eye doctors came in, and day one, My Eye doctor sign goes up. And so that practice is no longer what it was. And there were several buyouts in the market that left a gap because they changed the practice overnight. And so it was no longer what it was. And so there were people in flux, who do I go to now? And so I think for me, it was capturing that market and what is not now being served that I can fill the spot. And so I think that's probably, if we're talking about opportunity to move forward, it worked. I mean, we've had for the last 3 years, I think, 2017 to 18, we had a 15% increase, same the year next, and last year was a 27% increase.
Wow.
Yeah, it was huge. So it works. You've just got to find that hole and fill it.
And that's definitely true, because being here in Atlanta, I can attest to people, your name gets dropped all the time. So you're definitely filling that for a lot of people here. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
So when considering independent brands that you carry in your store, what are the top 3 things that you consider? And has that changed over the time that you've been in practice? For example, like price versus durability or things of that nature?
Yeah, that's a good question, because, over the 30-odd years, as I said earlier, there really weren't these independent brands. I mean, today, there's a plethora. I mean, you've got so many choices, it's almost overwhelming. Back then, there may have been 3, 4, 5 emerging on the market, so it was very different. I knew early on that if I didn't embrace this, I wouldn't be able to compete, because this was back in the day with the big stores that had their in-house finishing labs and surfacing labs, and so the idea was to just do something completely different. And so that's when I started going more boutique line, if you will. I don't know that the term independent line was even used back then. But I still think, the things today still apply, is that the style's got to be great. I mean, we're in a fashion industry more so than ever before. Quality. And I think really for me, the company's got to be pretty easy to work with. Business is hard enough without having to battle with companies over things. And so I would say that's probably my top 3 qualifiers.
I do have other questions, but when you say easy to work with, what's one thing that's a turnoff when you're trying to work with a brand?
Oh, gosh. I would say that constant rep turnover, where it's difficult to build a relationship and get a partnership going. Being able to get customer service to answer immediately and be efficient.
Okay.
And I think another component to that is billing, the accounting. I mean, you know, I pay my bills every single month, but some of them become so pedantic. If they put like a 15-day net on an invoice, they're calling you on day 16 and saying, "Where's my payment?" I'm like, guys, I pay you regularly every single month. Right. You know, so I think it's a multifaceted thing. I think it's just, you've got to feel as though they appreciate you as much as you appreciate them.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. All right, I have a couple more questions.
Okay.
What are a few things that you've noticed, because you've been in the industry, like you said, for 34 years, what are a few things that you notice in brands and businesses that add to their longevity?
Well, I think how they treat people, mutual respect. It's certainly in an eyewear line. I mean, some of these companies are our competitors. They're so heavily into online that really, are they there for us? Sometimes it feels like we're just a little sideline and their main business is selling online. Mm-hmm. I think a trait that I know a company is going to be successful long-term is when I look at a line, let's say I look at it for the first time, and it really, I can see the story behind the line. It's very cohesive, and I get a good sense of what it's going to be. And then their next collection is even better, and their third collection is like, wow, that's absolutely fantastic. I know that that's a directional company. I think the ones that struggle the most for me, when I look at it, and I don't get a sense of what they are, they're trying to be something for everybody. And just as we can't do that as retailers, and they can't do that as a manufacturer. And then I look at, so sometimes I'll look at it and I'll say, you know, it's not for me right now, but I'll look at it again next season. And I'll see if it start to morph into something that I get a feel for. Mm-hmm. Some of them just, in my opinion, don't get it. I can tell you one, well, probably two in the last 15 years that I think have just been fantastic. One was Dita in the early days. Oh, yeah. They were hot. They were moving forward. Every release they released was better than the one before. And then the most recent one, I think, is Jacques-Marie Mage. I don't know how many of you carry that, but from the first day I saw his line, I was like, he knows what he's doing. And he's proved that point. He's done tremendous things in 5 years.
Awesome. Okay, I have one more. Do I still have time? Am I going over?
I probably talk too much, so sorry.
No, you're giving us great information. We thank you so much for this wisdom. So this is my COVID question. With this whole climate, what's one thing you can say that you can't wait to get back to? I think you kind of already mentioned this in your previous conversation with Jennifer, but what's one thing that you feel that, you know, has to be done in store? We can't wait to get back to it. And then what's one thing that you think, just looking back over the past few months, that, hey, this is outdated. We really could move forward without this, and you might encourage newer retailers to just kind of do away with it. Is there anything on
Well, I really miss interacting with patients. I mean, as much of a pain in the ass as they are sometimes, I really have discovered that I actually like that aspect of it. I miss my staff, truthfully. I mean, many of them have been with me for so many years that I probably spend more time with them than I do with my family. And so I do miss my staff. As far as something that is outdated, I don't know that there's anything recent outdated. I think we all just need to relearn how to do our advertising going forward, and our social media, and how we're connecting with people. I think COVID is forcing us to look at things differently. And I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know what the next 6 months to a year is going to bring, but I do know that we're all going to have to be adaptable, and we're going to have to start thinking of how we can move forward with this, with all the new rules are in place. I was reading something yesterday about one state was saying they were going to mandate wearing masks for 6 to 12 months. So how temporary is it going to be? Nobody knows.
Right. A lot of new things coming over the horizon. Well, thank you so much. That's it. Those are my questions. And thank you so much for doing this. We really do appreciate
Oh,
it.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Doctor, that was really well, Doctor. Thank you so much. The questions
Thank
were
you.
on point. Appreciate
Thank you.
that as well. So getting a few questions, two going from Carrie. Carrie, first of all, you want to know what am I wearing? I am wearing Kubarum. So this is actually something that I picked up from our good friends in Echo Park, Los Angeles, Julia Gagosha, and she fit me with these Kubarum frames. And she has a question for you, Wendy. She says, as a brick and mortar, how do you get web traffic, in particular using Instagram and Facebook?
Well, you know, I'm somewhat of a dinosaur. So I've had to learn this Instagram and stuff. And I'm going to admit, it is not my forte. My daughter recently joined our practice and she loves it. And she's really good at it. And so she has, let's put it this way, in the time that we have been down, we've been doing a lot of contact through Instagram. Our numbers have doubled as far as people looking at it and whatever the terms are that they use. And we've actually gotten quite a lot of sales from it. So for me, it's learning new techniques, you know, what's out there that we can actually target and how do we target. It's not enough just to put pictures of frames on Instagram. You've got to look at your audience and pinpoint what it is you're trying to attract. I think what has worked the most, or the most feedback we've had, is not just using manufacturers' images. So you know how they all send you all their images that they've done and everybody just puts them on their Instagram, and that's not working nearly as well as a picture that we have taken in the office. Maybe we just put it in our hand and we move it, or maybe it's a short video of us cutting some lenses on the edge. It's really more interactive and basic. The photographs are not that great a quality. It's done with my iPhone, but I get far more traffic on that than anything else.
Very well said. Yeah, I agree. I think using the non-stock photos gives your practice its personality when you're purchasing as well. So Wendy, I am really excited about our next mentee because this is actually my first time meeting her. And she's coming to this session with an entirely different perspective. When I saw this application, I was very curious to know, number one, why she applied and what she's hoping to get out of it. And so I'm going to stop talking, Donisha, and I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself. And can you just let us know and let the listeners and industry know who you are, what's your background, and what brings you on this session?
Sure. First, I want to thank Wendy for taking the time to meet with me today. I also want to thank you, Terrence, for coordinating. This is my first time participating, so thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Donisha Freeman. I am currently working for the bank. I'm a vice president, senior taxonomy architect. So what that means is I manage the data infrastructure for the bank. I am very much interested in pursuing entrepreneurship within the optical industry, particularly on the design side. I do have extensive background in corporate retail design, that is women's handbags and accessories and so on. And also thinking about opening up my own storefront. So that is why I'm here today, to certainly learn more about the optical industry. I have attended one of the Vision Expos in Las Vegas a few years ago. So that was my first time attending the event there. So that's why I'm here.
Well, Donisha, I want to just give you a welcome to everybody on our beautiful industry. So thank you for finding us and we look forward to seeing you more.
Absolutely. Okay.
All right, so the floor is all yours.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to start with my first COVID question. So how are you navigating through the current environment with this pandemic and the restrictions that it has on businesses while continuing to serve your customers? And what has been some of your challenges? I know with the first discussion you had, you talked about specifically how you are going to facilitate or run your business after this pandemic. So I'm just curious to learn a little bit more about what are you doing now and what are some of your challenges?
Well, you know, look, we've done the best that we can do. I stayed in constant contact with everybody that had jobs running. We triaged what were the most urgent ones. I have had access to my store. I don't know if people know, but I'm actually in a mall. So it's not that I could do curbside service, you know, it was zero public access. And so we've done the best we can. I've gone in 1 day a week and we have cut people's lenses, done repairs, that kind of thing. And we've done a semi-curbside, which meant that people were parked up on a parking deck and I would have to park deck two floors down, get in my car, jump up 2 flights of parking deck, get the glasses, drive 2 floors back down, go into the store, do it, and do the same to deliver it. So it's been a bit of a nightmare. I've probably worked harder now than I have in the last 5 years. But one thing that it has allowed me to look at is we started, and I mentioned the virtual try-on. So about 8 months ago, I started looking for this kind of tool because I do a lot of custom lens design and I do a huge amount of rimless business. And so I launched a website just for my custom Cartier people so that they could see my shapes and all the options that we can do. And so it's actually allowed me to, instead of them coming into the store, I've been channeling them there and I've gotten great feedback so that this is going to give me information for what I need to do going forward. So it certainly hasn't been wasted time. It's like all good companies now, they're going to have to pivot, right? We're going to have to adapt to what is out there. And so for me, it's been a great learning experience.
Very good. Well, thank you. And that leads me to my next question. So how are you remaining competitive with your product offerings in the Atlanta market? More importantly, how do you keep up with the demand of the fashion eyewear while satisfying the needs of your customer base? For example, are you facilitating focus groups? Are you distributing surveys? I know you mentioned customization, that being like a core competency of your business model. But I'm just curious, you know, how are you remaining competitive with your products that you have available?
I think, look, we're a fashion-driven industry. I would say 40% of my business is people that don't need eyewear. And so that proves to you that people want to wear it. When you have, you know, let's take the music industry. I see a lot of musicians and a lot of rappers. And so, you know, they're all over Instagram and they've got my Cartier designs on and that kind of thing. People look up to them. And so if they're wearing it, they want to wear it. Fashion's got to be tied in with it. We've got the optician side of it, which we do very well. But you do have to have a good marriage of both. And so you've got to keep up on trends. I go to the international shows. I see what's coming. I read fashion magazines. I think you just have to have your finger on the fashion side of the industry. The optician side of it is easy for me. I can marry it, you know, very well. But you've got to get out there. I see on these forums all the time, people saying, what's your favorite line? You know, what would you put in for this? And you know, in this price range. And I'm like, that's the wrong way to do it. Get out, touch and feel this. Go to the shows, you know, go to the expos. You've got to know what's out there. You've got to educate yourself.
That's really good feedback. Thank you. My next question is, as I mentioned earlier, I am exploring opportunities as both the eyewear designer as well as opening up my own retail store. What guidance can you provide regarding obtaining an optical license? Are there any resources or associations that you recommend that I get connected with? What
state are you in?
I'm in North Carolina.
Okay, so North Carolina is an apprentice state, okay? So when you say you're gonna open up a store, I'm assuming an optical store, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so you want to design your own product and sell it in your own store.
That's correct.
Right? Okay. I would start, either go and work. Look, you're very different. You're going to be great because you're bringing a fresh set of eyes to this industry. It's not like you've worked somewhere for 10 years and you've been brainwashed or indoctrinated that this is what it needs to be. So you're going to be very interesting to watch. But you've got to get the optical experience, okay? So how do you do it? So if you want to open up your store and then hire an optician that you can apprentice under. That's one way of doing it. Or you go and find one of the best players in town and ask them to hire you and apprentice under them then. I think it's 2.5 years in North Carolina. But so that you can not only gain optical knowledge, which is key, but how to run the business, right? How does this business work? It's kind of hard just coming in cold.
Right.
But, you know, as far as resources, the ABO, your state board, should be able to help you and guide you as to what's the best step for you.
Okay. This is really great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I have time for one more question, Terrence.
You sure do.
Okay. The last question is, what are the top 5 tips or advice you offer an entrepreneur transitioning into this industry, particularly from corporate America, which is where I'm coming from?
I would say first and foremost would be to find a great mentor. Someone that has been around, been successful in the area that you're trying to get into. Learn to be a great optician, not just a salesperson. It has to go hand in hand. The most successful people I know are able to do both or wear both hats, okay? Find the segment of the market that you love. I don't know that it's realistic that you could open a store with just your own designs. You may have to have your designs and put some other lines in too. Okay, so find the segment of the market that you love, and that's what you need to move forward with. Look at the competition. Look, you know, wherever you are, look at what is going on there, and where are the gaps? What niche can you fill? And then I think, you know, a lot of times people are looking at stores or looking at someone that's successful and is saying, oh, you know, that's working for them, so that's what I'm going to do. Wrong. Do it your way. I'm sure you have a vision. If you're a designer, you're very creative, so you know where you want to go. But don't copy other people. You know, find the niche and put your twist on it. And look, and if it's slow starting, which it will be, never veer from that. Just persevere with it.
This is really good feedback. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Donisha, thank you for coming and participating in this. This is really good talk. So when you mentioned about finding opticians in North Carolina area, I was thinking off the top of my head who Donisha could reach out to. I know there's Calvin Presnell.
Calvin would be great. And I know, you know, look, even if there's not a position open, I think between Terrence and I, we know enough people in North Carolina that we could at least put you in touch with. And, you know, that you can just bounce things off. Look, this is a really friendly industry. We got a lot of people that have a lot of knowledge in different facets of it. And I would ask you to use all those connections that you can, you know, come up with. I've had Terrence has sent people into my store. I had a young lady maybe about 3 months ago that was wanting to be a frame designer. And so she came in and she was like, can I show you, you know, what I'm doing? So she comes at it from a design aspect, right? She's really creative. And now I have to kind of bring her down to earth from an optician standpoint a little bit, because I'm like, oh no, we can't RX that, or we can't do this, and we can't, do you see what I'm saying? So right. You need to pull all that together, and there's plenty of people in this industry that will be happy to help you.
Okay, thank you very much.
So Donisha, the next question is actually for you, because I keep getting this question. Everyone wants to know, what eyewear are you wearing?
Oh, this is...
Say it one more time, I'm sorry.
Teo.
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 Ah, very nice. Shout out.
Well, you already have great taste.
I know. Oh man! And speaking of Teo, Wendy, Asya just sent me a love letter saying "Love Wendy." By the way.
Oh, thank you. I'm getting all these love letters. I love it.
You are getting quite a bit. You are getting quite a bit. All right, so let's go on to our next mentee. I'm very excited. Also, our next mentee, someone who I know really well. I just love watching her every day on social media. I love watching her business sense, from her being a student at optometry school to now a full-fledged doctor. And also what her and her fiance are doing, just their head, they're going in the right direction. So Dr. Nishan, how are you?
Good, good. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here. Thank you for telling me about this opportunity and allowing me to become a mentee. And then also thank you, Wendy, for being here and being open to answering our questions. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Nishan. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. All right, so just a little bit of background about myself. So I'm Dr. Niche, like I just like to say Dr. Niche. I recently graduated from PCO in 2019. So I'm fresh in the optometry world, if you will. I just started practicing. It hasn't even been a year yet, but I really, really love the optical side of things, of optometry, or of eye care, I should say, as well. I recently launched my own kind of frame collection about 6 to 7 months ago. It's an e-commerce site, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. It was like something just to test the waters to see kind of how it worked, and I really, really love it. And so now we're at a point, my fiance and I, we're at a point where we're actually looking into opening some type of business. And we were thinking about maybe opening a business separately, like maybe in 3 to 5 years, I'll open up my own private practice. And he cuts hair, so he will possibly open up his own like luxury barbershop. But talking to Terrence one day, he was like, have you ever heard of an optical barbershop? And I was like, whoa, like I have never heard of anything like that. And then he provided us with information about some shops in Paris and more about their type of business model. And, you know, there's nothing like that in the States that I know about right now. And I was like, that's just an amazing opportunity. And it's kind of creating like an aesthetic type of feel in terms of, you know, aesthetics and how things look. It kind of all ties in together. So that's just a little bit of background about my situation and where we are. So some of the questions that I had were actually already asked, so I'm going to try to go off the top, just, you know, more specifically for me. So one of the questions I had was, could you provide more information about how you got started and provide advice to someone like me who's interested in starting their own type of like optical retail business, and just kind of where to start, well, not where to start, but more or less some advice and 3 things you wish you would have known when starting in the industry?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Okay. Well, first of all, I love your idea. That's really very cool. And you know, I know that Terrence has told me about him getting a haircut at the optical store in Paris. So it's a fabulous concept. And you're right. I don't think I know of anybody doing it. And so you're already on the right path. What you're looking for is an opportunity or a niche that nobody else is doing. Anybody can open their doors and sell the same frames as anybody else. How successful are you going to be? Because there's a lot of competition. So the 2 markets that I see that are successfully weathering storms and have longevity, right? It's the luxury, independent end, and then the value end. These middle of the road, and I hate to say optometry practices, but invariably they are. They're run by optometrists that are neglecting their dispensary. You know, they're just not putting the emphasis on it. I think they're the ones that are going to struggle. If you come up with a concept that nobody else has, you've already got your marketing right there. You've got something that you can post on social media that other people are not competing with you in. You've created your own arena. All right, what was the other part of the question? You're muted.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Sorry. Okay.
So actually, that's a really good point. And that's kind of what I was thinking about in terms of what makes us different. I'm the type, I don't just want to go start a practice. To me, that's boring, if you will. I'm not trying to be, you know, talk about
I get it.
Practice. It's just for me specifically. I never imagined myself just opening my own practice and then working there for 40 plus years and hiring an associate and then kind of, you know, getting out. That's not what I want for my life. I've always wanted to do something different. And like you said, that's something that's different. The good thing is there's already a business model over in Paris, but nothing in the States. So someone's already done it, which is nice. We just have to make it ours. And so that's what I'm really excited about. And so the other part of the question was, in terms of the way you got started, what type of advice would you provide to someone like me who wants to start and what advice would you give in terms of just how to get started and some possible mistakes you made that you wish you wouldn't have made, or what you wish you would have known when you did start? I'll say that.
Gosh, it's such a long time ago. You know, I would say today, have some money behind you. Okay. It's not cheap to open. So you need 6 months minimum of operating expenses. Start small, but know what your concept is. What I hear a lot from people is that they start off down a path that they really believe in, but then business doesn't grow as quickly as they anticipated. And so then they start panicking and they're like, everybody's talking about Ray-Ban, so I'll put Ray-Ban in, or, you know, wrong. If people coming into your store can't get a sense of you and what you are and the lines that you carry, if you're all over the place, that's the kind of customer that you're going to pull. You need to find that niche. Okay. Mine kind of morphed over the years because it started with the independents coming into the market. And that's what I then embraced and moved forward with it over the next 25 years. You're coming at it from a different perspective. You've already got a lot of competition. There's already a lot of independent lines out there. What is it that's going to separate you? And that's basically what it comes down to. Look at all the competition in town. Don't do what they're doing. Do it differently and do it better.
I like that. Do it differently and do it better. Definitely. All right. So my next question, I see that you also offer eye care at your optical. And I think that's awesome. Did you always have eye care as a part of it, or did you bring the doctor in later? And I'm assuming that, of course, they drove up sales because you had an eye doctor there. But if you did bring them in later, you know, did you notice a difference in sales and how important it is in your eyes to have an eye doctor present in the optical?
That's a really good question. I would say we've had an optometrist on staff for probably 29 to 30 years. And one of the reasons of doing that is that Atlanta gets a lot of tourism. You know, we see a lot of people from out of town. We see a lot of people that live here part of the year and then, you know, go back to their own country. So we had to be able to offer convenience. It's a loss leader for me. We're not a medical model practice. That's not what we focus on. We are primarily a dispensary. And by the way, if you need an exam, I do have a doctor. So the reason we do it is because I can have someone come in that is ready to buy $5,000 worth of glasses on the spot, but they need a new exam. I shoot them into the back. We do a very thorough exam, and I've got the sale. So for me, it works. I don't know that every practice needs to do that or start out that way. I would say the challenge for optometry-owned practices is if you are the primary optometrist, you are in the back with the door closed, and you have no idea what is going on your floor. I do a little bit of consulting on the side for some optometry practices, and that is the biggest challenge for them. How do they keep the finger on the pulse? How are they watching what is happening out there? Because you're hiring people that you're expecting to take your dream and channel it to your patients. And it rarely happens that way. That's the challenge for an optometrist.
And that's what I agree with. This is my fiance, Chad, walking in.
Hey.
Chad.
Hey.
Oh, I like the mask.
Hey, Chad, you can stay, Chad.
Oh, I got cuts right.
Yeah, he got. So my last question is kind of piggybacking off what we were just discussing, because as an optometrist myself, of course, I would still want to do eye exams. But then, of course, starting out, like you said, you may not make money in the beginning. So I'm probably going to have to do part-time somewhere else, you know, and part-time in my own location. So there's that. But I would also have to hire an optician, because I live in Florida, and you have to be a licensed optician, or I have a licensed optician in the practice, if I'm not mistaken. So how did you go about how did you go about finding opticians who more or less believed in your dream as much as you did?
Yeah, that's, you know what? That's the challenge that we all have. I have an optician that has been with me since 1991. My next optician has been with me 16, 17 years now. So, you know, over the years, I've found some really good people. And that's the one thing that you really should invest in. I hear a lot of optometrists that say, well, I don't need a licensed optician, you know, because they can work under my license. Wrong. If you don't have qualified staff up front, you're going to get all the mistakes sitting in your exam chair. Okay, which means that it's taking money away from you. You need a strong optician out front that can troubleshoot, stop them coming back to your lane. But they have to, if you've only got one, they've got to wear many hats. They've got to be a good business person. They've got to be able to sell. They've got to be able to communicate your message to your patients. It is going to be a challenge. And to find one person, if that's what you're starting with, that can do all of that, that's a tough road.
Toughest part.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you answering the questions. I know they were kind of questions that I didn't, you know, send in, but I'm happy that you answered them. And I really appreciate all the feedback because I'm really excited to go down this journey or down this path. And I really appreciate all the information.
Oh, you are so welcome. I'm excited for you. I'm really dying to see. I want to come in and get my hair cut and get my glasses at the same time.
I can see Wendy getting a fade.
I would love one right now. Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Dr. Sze, for always watching your story, and you and Chad are just amazing. We look forward to see your business growing.
Thank you.
So let's go on to our next panelist. Now, we decided to end with our neighbors up north in Canada. I met Joanne many, many years ago when she just started her first store in Ontario, and with her and Michael are doing, it's just amazing to watch in 4 years. So Joanne, are you there?
Hi, Terrence, and hi, Wendy.
Hi, Joanne.
It's nice seeing you again, Wendy. We had a
too.
session in Vision Expo West, and it was such an amazing opportunity to speak to you. You were actually one of my favorites that
thank you.
With. So I feel very honored that there's a golden opportunity once again. A little bit more background about myself. I'm actually not from the optical industry. I'm actually from the grocery retail industry, so a lot of business side. But I did graduate with an art degree. So I kind of took the business side and an artistic side and mended it together. Eventually down the road, I do want to open up a designer line of my own. But I started off with opening a retail store 3 years ago. And my second store will be opening up in a couple months. So my question to you is, I noticed that Sally Opticians is primarily cord staffing is opticians. Was this done purposely, or did you find that opticians were more beneficial than stylists? Because selling independent eyewear is a little bit more difficult, and not all opticians have that same fashion sense training.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of piggybacking off that same thing. It is very difficult to find someone that can wear all the hats that are necessary to do a good job. I have 4 licensed opticians, I have 1 ABO, and I have 2 apprentices. And I can tell you that historically, one of my licensed opticians, I took him on as an apprentice, and he's absolutely fantastic, and he's been with me for 16 years. And if he's listening, I'm sure he's blushing right now. But he was fantastic, and he's somebody that I wanted to keep on, and I invested in him and then trained him, you know, into management. But I would say over the years, the apprentices that I've taken on, if I see someone that I think has talent, if they can talk to people, they're not afraid to enter into a conversation, they have a sense of style, they dress beautifully, I can teach them the optics if they want to learn, right? And so sometimes you have to have both. I think in your practice, you have 1 optician?
I have 1 optician and 2 doctors. But primarily myself acting as a stylist and also my optician as the technical and stylist myself. I'm having a little bit of a dilemma where I want to find either another primary optician for my second location, or should I just train my stylist the optical side?
You need one person that is a really good optician in each location.
Okay.
If you, I mean, that's my recommendation, at least one. And then you can add a stylist, okay, that can piggyback off that person and you can train them up. But I think you're going to be, not all optometrists. I've had a couple over the years that could be really good opticians, but most of them are not as lens savvy as we are.
Yeah.
And so I think you have to look at your optometrist in that office too and be guided by that. If they're on the floor a lot and enjoy, you know, or helping, that's one thing. A lot of them just want to come out and hand it off, right? So you've got to have a really good optician there. If you can find someone that can do both sales and technical, you're golden. But I don't leave yourself exposed by not having the knowledge there.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I was leaning towards a primary optician, but it's been so hard to find an optician that believes in independent eyewear because it's such a niche market and not everybody does it.
Well, you know, maybe the good side about COVID is that people have opened their eyes a little bit and there may be some good people on the market now that you could gobble up, right?
Yeah, that's true. Thanks. Thanks, Sally. My next question to you is, because you've been doing this for 34 years now for selling independent brands, how did you convert the clients that were coming in asking for your conventional brands that are mass produced?
I don't know that I have that anymore because I've been in the industry such a long time. So I think people that are coming into me are already coming in with a certain expectation. I mean, occasionally we'll get them and they'll say, well, you know, don't you carry this and don't you carry that? I'm like, no. And then that's time to tell your story. But I think the longer you're in business, you will attract the kind of person that you're targeting. And you should never ever veer from that. You don't be in such a hurry to increase your business by diverting what you do or veering from your path. Okay. Today, people come into my store not necessarily looking for a brand. They come in to be styled, and that's I'm blessed with that. So they come in and it's more of a what should I be wearing? Does that make sense? And it may take you a few years to get to that point, but people come in and give us that confidence because they know we've been around, they know what we do, they know the lines that we carry, and so it's going to be what is best for them, not something they've seen on a commercial somewhere.
Yeah, I do totally agree with that because the first year was definitely a struggle with independent eyewear. And now that we've hit our third year going into our fourth year, it's been a big difference. A lot of people are coming to us because now they know our reputation and what we sell for independent lines, and they come to us because we're different. So I do agree with that. It does take time.
Well, and that's exactly right. Now, so piggyback on that, when they come in and they have now appreciated what you have done, they've had a fantastic experience. They've got a frame that they're not going to see on everybody's face walking down the street. Are you asking them to tell their friends, tell their family, please give us a review, give us some feedback? I mean, that is really pivotal for you to expand. So you don't just leave it there with that they're happy with it. Ask them to tell other people how happy they are.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. My next question to you, we kind of touched upon this in Vegas, but I asked you about what was your kind of price ranges that you sold, and the one thing that you looked at me and said was aim higher.
I think I remember that.
Yeah.
That is such a Wendy Sally answer. Aim higher.
Aim higher. She literally gave me the thumbs up and aim higher. So I actually took that advice and I brought in Jacques-Marie Mage, and it's been doing amazing for me. It's been the #1 brand that's flying off my shelves, and I can't keep them in stock compared to all the other independent brands that are on the boards. So my question to you was, what was your average price point for retail frames that you find is kind of the magic number that clients are reciprocating to?
Well, you know, I carry several lines and they run the gamut. So my lowest price point is around $310, $325. But I go up to several thousand. So mine is very unusual. Mm-hmm. And I get that. When I actually did the calculation for 2019 on what my average frame sale was, it came in at $945. That's without lenses. My end is a little more luxury. Mm-hmm. I think if you've got a $500 average frame sale, I think you're doing pretty well. Mm-hmm. And I think the whole point is that when you see something that is moving well, like you've put in JMM, which is a fantastic line. It has a cult following. I mean, you can't buy that kind of marketing, right? Yeah. People seek it. Yeah. And so those are the kinds of lines that you need to move towards. You've already seen that you can carry that price point and trendy. Mm-hmm. So what else is out there that you can do? Right? You don't have to have just one of those lines and all the other ones be $300 or $250. Start expanding on that part of it. You're no longer afraid of it. I think when we spoke in Vegas, it was like, oh, I don't know if we can do it, but you've already tested the waters and you can do it. Yeah. Now keep pushing it. And look, it's not all based on price point. The goal is not to carry really expensive product. For me, it just morphed that way. But sometimes, you know, the more innovative lines, like, you know, I have a line that's made of marble. You know, it retails for $2,500. I'm not afraid to put that in, and I'm not afraid to sell it, and I'm not afraid to ask people to pay that much. Mm-hmm. Why would I prejudge what people are willing to spend? It's my job to show them what is out there, and they choose.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Terrence, do I have time for another question, or is that it?
Unfortunately, Joanne, we have run out of time, and you had some really, really good questions. It was great also having a follow-up. The two of you connected at Vision Expo West almost 7 months ago, and now here you are seeing your progress, Joanne. So she listened to you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited for you.
Wendy. That's exciting. So look forward to seeing your story. And again, our thoughts are with you as you're opening up your new practice right now, your new office with everything going on. But again, like Dr. Jen, I know you personally and your resilience, you're going to rock it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good luck, Joanne.
Exactly. Absolutely. Well, this ends our speed dating. Wendy, I'm changing your name, Wendy. Wendy, your name now is Reverend Wendy because you spoke truth to that.
I've been called worse.
I am changing your name for that as well. So thank you for volunteering your time. I really appreciate it. Some people have asked for your information for some of your consulting services. I'll reach out to you after to discuss that. I want to thank all of our mentees. Thank you for coming prepared with well thought out questions, and looking forward to following all of you and your stories, and all of our attendees that came on today. There's so many here. Dr. Bazan, thank you. Carrie, thank you. Todd, of course, thank you for coming, and thank you also for being our guest bartender today. Zaf, we appreciate you being here. Pierce, thank you so much, Pierce. We appreciate you being here as well. So many of you have are mentors to me personally, so it's nice all you being here and learning from Wendy as well. So there is a poll that you may have just saw come up on your screen. Before you log off, please fill that poll out. This helps us with our future sessions as well. With that being said, this formally ends happy hour. Next week's happy hour, we put on by my big brother, James Spina. He's gonna be having the subject creative at the independent. So log into that. James will be talking to some amazing independent minds, both on the designer vendor side and on the retail side. Some like Jeff Press from Morgenthau Frederick, some like Nada Vucic from Bruce Eyewear in Vancouver as well. We also have another discussion called Coffee Talk, which is every Wednesday at 12:15 Eastern. That deals with some very pertinent, necessary information that's of immediate need to the industry. This week's Coffee Talk will be called Secure the Bag. And Marge Axelrod from Vision Monday Magazine will be moderating that discussion. And she will be speaking to vendors who will be showing what they are doing to support their accounts during COVID-19 and sharing their protocol for post-COVID-19. So with that being said, Everybody, thank you all for attending. We look forward to seeing you at Coffee Talk or the next happy hour. All
Cheers,
right, signing
everyone.
off. Signing off, everybody.